Okay. So here we are. And what level are you guys? What level is this scrim at again? Or was this a match?
This
Intro.
isn't. This is a Trink match.
It's around mid-diamond.
Okay. Okay.
Like
So it's
Team
a
averages.
3.3,
tournament
3.4,
match
3.3.
around mid diamond. No problem. No problem. Okay. So we're set up. We can
4,
evaluate the rollout
3,
if we
2,
like.
1. Round 1. Capture the objective.
Sure.
One.
We are a bit less
Okay,
experienced
so
in-
we don't do this. We don't amp until after TP in any situation where we're using a TP, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
Because we're wasting a lot of our amp time. Oh boy. Oh boy. And then we, Okay, so we're gonna need some work on that rollout.
He gets caught out.
Yep, that's a bit of a problem. Okay, so that's fine.
This
What's that?
should have Lucio like stayed back a little bit.
Well, Lucia's
Okay,
gonna have to go get him, but
bad.
let's be honest, Diva's probably gonna have to go get him too, right? Like, I don't
Yeah.
expect enemies to not be able to eliminate a BAP that's trying to walk across on their own. Like, if you guys had done the same thing and used, I don't know, maybe used Kree to actually play instead of Sim, Kree would have needed some help across. So this isn't like an unheard of situation. So we're going to have to go, hey, let's use the tools that we have to go get them. This is who they're going to try to pounce on right now, not your group. Okay. You're just not going to make it anymore. So you have to push the back of this team. So this is happening right here, and you guys don't have access to this Zen. You have to sandwich this team and just walk at them with the back of your core. You're not going to... You see how there's still 12 seconds left here before unlock? You're not going to be able to like, oh, we'll wait till it unlocks, then we'll cap it, then we'll get 40%, then it'll be fine, and maybe our BAP will make it back on a second life. Like, that's not going to work. This was executed wrong. He got stuck, and so we need to run down the back of this team. This Diva, for example, is going to be someone that you can trade back. They're going to probably get your BAP, you'll lamp, you'll do things like that, but what if you get their Diva and potentially someone else? Maybe you get their Diva and their ball, maybe you get their Diva and the Tracer, maybe you get the Diva and force recall and the ball to roll away with 100 health. Then maybe you've got chances of actually capping this, but you have to run out and pincer this, and you can because they've committed their movement abilities and you have amp. So let's do it. Let's try to run over their dive. Too slow. Okay, so that's too slow, and this did want to be an amped push, and now we're seeing amp come out, but like this needed to be let's just run them over, have our BAP kite them out to pull them out of range of their Zen, because that forces their Zen to do nothing or to drop, in which case you might double back for it. But this was too slow. Who calls your rotations?
We don't really have a set person who calls rotations. Just
Okay,
anybody.
but
This rotation might have been John.
okay. Would John usually call? I saw John went first. That's your May there. Was that normal for you to sort of call when your team is gonna run stuff down like this?
I called to, I think, go to our BEP since I knew they were gonna go on them.
Okay. Okay. Um, it's a pretty normal thing for the comp that you guys are playing to have to run down the other team, or try to run down the other team and then maybe back out of it. Like if you guys won Night Market and you ran up against a similar comp here to the one you're playing at now, one of your win conditions would be to run down their Zen, right? Is that something you guys
Yeah.
have done before?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
so who would call for that to happen, and can you call it on a dime, or does the team need like, hey, discuss like, hey, we should run this down? Okay, 3, 2, 1. Like, how does that happen? How does that sound?
If it's preset like that, usually our tank will just 3-2-1 it, but this is a new tank. He doesn't really do that as often. But if it's preset idea that we're gonna go after it, then usually it's the main tank.
Okay, Okay. We're going to want to be able to transition that to happen faster because situations like this happen, right? And they'll also happen when you're chasing down instead of a Zen, chasing down like a dive tank who made a mistake or, some sort of dive hero like a Diva, like a Winston that made a mistake and used their movement ability and you want to run down right then. You don't want to give them time to start to get the pretty short cooldown back. So we'd like to be able to do this a little bit cleaner and faster than we did here, but not a big deal.
That's not right.
The objective is now.
Okay. You guys are gonna have a tough time, but you're gonna get the percentage that you can. Okay. Probably just a stall. Fine.
Get through this. Mounting power to forward shield.
Clear impact area.
Time to raise my APM. This was something. Justice. Great. Good thing I brought
Oh,
them
that's
back.
nice.
Defense matrix activated.
Okay. That is incredibly bad for them that you were just able to stabilize this, hold this together. That was mostly a messy fight. You guys did a somewhat good job of rotating through your abilities there to contest. This is going to be an absolute tragedy for them. So that's great.
Nothing's gonna stop.
And you don't have everyone, and you can't really leave to go get them, but this is fine. Do you guys know why that went wrong for them when they tried to push you there?
No.
Most poke comps, so did you guys get any success when you ran out here to go try to get your BAP, to go try to eliminate anyone? Did you get any success?
No.
You
Oh,
traded
we got a
the
trade,
reserve,
but
You
no.
gotta trade.
and then they rezzed. So we used res.
Yeah.
Okay.
They used res.
Okay. So you did get a little bit of success. You did get the res out of them, but it's true they were able to res it. Mostly what happened, though, is you take anything away. If you take anything away from a poke comp like this while it's trying to fight Brawl before it's committed, if your Brawl starts losing a ton of people and spreading out, this comp will beat your Brawl comp. But if they try to soften you up on these sorts of maps where they can surround you, where they can do well, if they really lose any of their offensive firepower, oh, their Pharah can't get in, oh, their Zen can't get in, no, anything like that, if they really lose any of it, it's really, really hard for them to soften you up enough. It's hard for them to stay ahead of your resource regain between May walls, between defense matrix, between brine barrier while you had him, that sort of thing. So they really need to like sort of go fresh. And if you guys do the same thing, if you play one of these more pokey hybrid type comps into a Brawl Cup, you're really going to have to exhaust that team pretty thoroughly. And if you lose anyone, it's kind of over and you've kind of got to reset. But that's okay. You guys got work done. We like it.
So when there's downtime, like before the fight, does the brawl set up on point or on the bridge?
In this situation, you'd go ahead and set up on point because you know that you're just not going to be able to do anything meaningful in terms of poke to deny them. In terms of against other comps, against another Brawl comp, you could set up here. And it wouldn't be the end of the world for you to set up here against this comp. You get a little more space, you get a little bit more angles, you can poke them out, do whatever you want. But you're going to retreat pretty darn quickly into here where they have to surround you, they have to do work. We don't want to have to spend resources out here, and really when they have this pharmacy like this, when they have this ball who can help separate us, we're generally just most of the time going to say, nah, we're just going to go hard objective pressure. It wouldn't be strictly wrong to set up like, no, we have a little bit of angle control, we'll apply a little bit of angle pressure, a little bit of angle pressure, but then as soon as they put any pressure on you, surrender it, and the idea there is you're making them a touch slower to get the surround on you by putting pressure on them from here, but the reality is most of the time you're just going to prefer to not give them the shot to get an early quick one shot, anything like that while you're in the open, and instead just go, no, we're going to use this as cover, make you play around it, rotate our walls, our shields, that sort of thing. As Brawl, in this situation, mostly you just go, we'll abuse the closed space.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So I don't know why we're shielding here. Like I look at this and go, hey, I don't mind this necessarily. We could put our Reinhardt up here or up here, and that would be fine. But if we feel like, hey, no, we're going to play back here, okay, well, if we're going to play it back here and we're not worried about them walling us off or anything, why don't we just play back here? Like, I want this shield. I don't need to touch point unless they touch point, right? Like, we have control. I'm good. I can just stand back here, save our resources, or I can stand up here where it forces them in close. Stand up here where it forces them in close. Oh, I was standing here and your Zen took that angle. We might be able to chase that down. Speed boost, run through this, go get the Zen. That's not off the table. Stabilize in here for just a second, and if we got the Zen, we can walk back through the open relatively safely. You see what I'm saying there?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, now we push back up.
Forward shield.
Good.
可以挡住他们。Time's up。他们。冻住，不许走。
What caused us to lose our Reinhardt there?
Spam.
Time's up。他的。
Yeah, but he's had time to recover his shield. He didn't use it during the entirety of the Mei wall. We can't be swinging right now. We don't have the health. If we are swinging, we need to be DMing over it. Yeah, so this was like us fighting the D.Va. I don't know that the D.Va made a big enough mistake for us to want to be fighting. So let's watch this. Yeah, this D.Va hasn't really made mistakes. You guys are trying to run this down. I'm fine with trying to run this down and trying to win this, quite frankly. But if this is the situation, we need to be going, oh, hey, we're trying to do this, whatever. We need to be able to keep our Reinhardt up in this situation. And our Reinhardt's not discorded. Like, we shouldn't lose him here. We're late on the lamp. But it honestly shouldn't even have taken the lamp. This is, in this situation, like, yes, we started with our Reinhardt. No, we go up to full there.
这样可以挡住他们。
We're losing too much health there. Yeah, we're pushing when our Reinhardt is at, like, a third health here. So, like, we would have ideally healed up more while we had that Mei wall up. Pressure on us should have been relatively light there. Yes, I realize everyone is missing health, but we'd expect to see more healing while we had that Mei wall up. We're spending a resource to get back ahead on other resources. That would be Rein Shield, that would be health, that sort of thing. We're spending our cooldown to do that. And then we would normally be able to push here. It didn't make sense to push with a third health, but this D.Va is playing way too aggressive and does need to be forced to leave. Like, I'd like to make this D.Va leave and then run through them and eliminate this Zen, and that should be doable, but our Rein needs to be healed more. Our Rein potentially needs to be DM'd here. That's not usually something you think about when you're playing against a pharmacy team. Usually you'd think about that against other brawl teams, but if this is happening, this needs to happen. Really, though, we can just walk at this D.Va with our shield up as Reinhardt, and everyone, especially our Sim and Mei, can apply work to this D.Va to make them leave. So there's errors, I'd say, all around here in terms of the micro that makes this situation go a fair bit better. Because this is the right concept of, hey, let's go push them right now. I'm totally good with that, but we shouldn't lose our Reinhardt here, and there's about 3 people who can do things to make that not happen. The first of which being Reinhardt, who's swinging like wild with a third health.
冻住，不许走。
Into the iris.
Okay, back to point, no problem.
No. Time to raise my gaze. 안녕. Hi.
Okay, not a big deal.
Hiya.
He used trans and poles.
What's that?
He used trans and poles.
Yep, they did. That was fine. I mean, we could have potentially beat that without our Reinhardt. We still would have been perfectly happy to fight them on point without our Reinhardt, and we had the ults to do so, or with our Reinhardt, and we had the ults to do so. But they got the Reinhardt down. We were out in the open when they got our Reinhardt down. We understand how that flipped. That said, this is a one map. You come back and win one team fight, and they're going to be staggering their way back onto point. So this shouldn't be a big deal.
Hiya.
You think this is the best way to get to point?
Oh, we kind of just said go top left.
Okay. Okay. Top left is a lot of distance that you have to go through, right? Like it's a lot of distance that you have to cover before you're in your brawl range, and by the time you get to them, you're going to be in a situation where they're going to have gotten to exhaust your resources, spent Rhine Shield, spent some of your health, maybe got an amp out of you, gotten, you won't get Maywa out of you, but potentially get a lamp out of you. Like they'll be able to get stuff out of you if you advance this way. So I don't really like it. We could go kitchen, or we could maybe bait kitchen. Like, hey, we bait kitchen maybe to try to pull them over and then drop and go this way. That would be an option, I suppose. Or we pretend to go this way and then we actually last second TP back up here and go out through here thinking, hey, we've thrown them off and now maybe we can get through here more cleanly. But usually the standard retake rotation here is just going to be, you guys still have a sim TP. You're just going to walk up to here. They're going to try to spam you a bit and you're going to go, yeah, that's cool. We have plenty of shield to protect us while we TP over to here and now we're on point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's all we need to do. It's not too complicated. And now they're going to get a chance to rebuild ults when you just had this thoroughly won with the ults that you had. They were never going to beat you in a brawl when you had Simwall and Beat available to you.
Justice reigns from.
And they just spent trans.
Dein Schutzengel ist da.
We still go top left.
You do go top left.
Cool gambit.
Okay. You're going top left. You're going to try to push through a minefield. Yeah, okay. And we're going to TP. I mean, the TP helps, but, like, no. Oh, that helps. Stabilize, stabilize, stabilize. No problem. You can block this.
Suiting up.
He didn't block it.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I did hear the barrier destroyed noise. Okay. That's actually still locked out. He can't block it.
Did anyone call that the shield was, the barrier was destroyed?
I mean, Reinhardt sound
I did.
effects did. Yeah. I couldn't hear it when I was up over here, but when I was down over here, I definitely heard it. Okay.
I remember hearing you block it.
Oh, got it. Got it. Okay. So, a little bit of a problem. Your guys aren't going to win here. They're going to hit their res. There's still a minefield. We can just leave. And while they're using ults to contain us, they're now at another weak moment. So we might be able to win here, but we're going to win here after we get our ults back. And we have 4 ults now. They have none. Like, we don't want to feed this team. We don't want to feed this team remotely.
Routing turrets forward barrier. I'm gonna have to shoot you down.
Hopefully we're going to change our mind and go main. Okay. This is probably your last real push right here. But it's also a great push timing-wise for ults. Okay. Sure. Okay. Okay, so now I am going to ask you guys to split a little like we talked about, to go, hey, let's take our off angles. Let's, set up around bridge, something like that. Why am I going to ask you guys to do that now?
Because
Yeah,
They're gonna
McCree.
stagger in.
we have McCree and almost Window High.
Exactly. You've inverted your comps. Which of you have the more powerful poke? right now. You sort of usually they have the more powerful poke, but if you guys have Window and High Noon available to you, you're actually the better poke comp while those are available, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, but they can't get in this far. That D.Va can't be allowed to do that. Oh no.
Overtime.
Okay. That's not really the beat that we wanted. Were we about to lose someone? Lucio.
I think
We were
McCree
potentially about to lose
almost-
Lucio. Okay. And
And
Cree's in
McCree.
some
Yeah,
trouble.
he was
Sure.
one.
Okay.
It's hand.
Sure, we get 2 out of it. That should be more than enough. This should never have flipped. Good. You win. Yeah. Okay. So not exactly the setup we'd have wanted in terms of how we'd have fanned out there. Like we just sort of all stood up over here, and that doesn't really help with that lets them line of sight us. It really is more this bridge that we're thinking about. Maybe someone over here, maybe someone over here, but like here plus bridge, you know, sort of does what we want for when we are in that. But our real issue, our real biggest issue this match was we kept trying to take this retake route, which didn't really make sense unless like they're on Brawl and holding point. Maybe then it makes sense to come up this way. That's not going to work when they're on a pokey dive comp type thing. And then we, of course, had our opening mistake. So any questions before we move on to the next point here?
Oh yeah, I have one question.
By all
Well,
means.
we don't really play Brawl,
Mhm.
so how would we like? What are some basic Brawl
Tips.
fundamentals? Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. Basic Brawl fundamentals. Some of the basic Brawl fundamentals are going to be that you, against some of these poke teams, you can absolutely set up for poke like we talked about when you're in a mirror or when you're in a team that has similar levels of poke to you. The team with bigger and more angles is going to tend to win. Yes, that does apply to Brawl v Brawl. But when you're playing against a team that's like going to try to poke you from a bunch of different directions, you're going to get a lot more interested in, hey, let's either manipulate objective pressure or let's try to clear out their angles one at a time, because you can walk over almost anything, but you don't want to walk through the middle of it. If you think about a concave, this isn't a great map for it, but let's pretend that you're here and there's enemies that are over there, and over there. If you walk here, you're probably going to lose, right? Because you're getting shot on all 3 sides at once. If you go outside and deal with this enemy first, now you're dealing with much less threat, and they can't really stop you from going outside and dealing with this enemy first. Obviously, this is an impossibility because you'd have to walk on air right now, but I don't have enough map space anywhere to really highlight the point. So does that conceptually sort of make sense? If we want to remove their outside angles, or we want to manipulate objective pressure to force them in, or the last option would be I can run down and take out this mid group if I can do it in a place where their outside group can't contribute. And an example of that would be, let's say you're playing against this comp. If you can force a fight with their Zen plus Brig, or let's say there's Zen plus D.Va in here and their pharmacy's out here, you really don't care, right? Like you can walk through whatever the heck you want to go fight whoever in here because their pharmacy can't contribute or their widow can't contribute. Or you see where I'm going with this?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like determinate on pathing, yeah?
Yeah, Brawl is heavily about your rotations. Yeah, that would be a thing. Obviously, if we're talking Brawl v Brawl, I can go much deeper into the mirror, but with what we saw here, this was a Brawl versus a poke dive hybrid sort of thing, and that's going to be very heavily about, hey, use objective pressure to force them in, use objective pressure to find things that you can go on, or if you need to take from them, that sort of thing, you can again try to manipulate objective pressure, or you can go clear out the groups of people, because you can always make a group of people move. As Brawl, they'll never be able to fight you. If you're approaching them from the outside, you're not walking into their concave. Sound good?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
And if you want me to go some vastly different direction with that, I'm
Ready
perfectly
for
happy to
battle.
as well. But fundamentals of Brawl is very broad, I guess we could say. Like, if you asked me a year ago, I'd have started talking to you about the Brawl v Brawl CD rotation. But you guys weren't fighting Brawl here. Okay.
So this map, it just feels like they had so much
Round
like
two.
Better of a comp than you?
Capture the objective.
pressure on the map they controlled.
Okay, got it. Yes. This is a bit of a meta-breaking map where it kind of doesn't matter what the meta is. You're going to instead run something that can get control of this and can also threaten from here. Like, what they're running is a comp that's... I wouldn't usually run that with an Echo, but yeah, they're running a pretty normal comp for this in most metas. Similar to how Gibraltar's a meta-breaking map. You don't run Brawl on Gibraltar even if Brawl's meta. So, you guys are choosing... Right. So you guys are choosing to run this, and that can work because you expect them to run a poke-heavy map, a poke-heavy comp, because, hey, this is a good map for poke. And they're going, we're going to run poke, and we think it's going to beat our counter, which is you guys running dive, because we think the map is favorable enough for it. Totally reasonable. So you both have your hypotheses coming in here for how to make this work. And maybe you have the better hypothesis, maybe that's just fine. So if that's the case, they're going to be running out here and they're going to be controlling a couple different areas. They're going to probably try to get control of this, and maybe they'll set up a soldier over here. Maybe they'll set up a soldier over here with their Sigma on point. Maybe they won't worry about point until they've thoroughly won. I doubt they're going to care too much about this. So you guys are going to have to, if they're going to take like good strong positioning in two places and they have better poke than you, which they do, what do you have to do to beat them on your comp?
Close the distance.
Yeah, dive is good about closing the distance against poke because you guys have movement abilities, and then your heroes are better than their heroes in Brawl. They're not as strong as Brawl heroes would be, but you force a Brawl phase with your movement abilities, and then you beat them at close range before they're able to get ahead with their poke. That's true. Do you want to close the distance this way?
No.
Do you want to
No.
close the distance this way?
The
No.
No.
I think maybe trying to like pinch them.
Yeah, we need to pinch them. So I don't know that these are strictly no's. I might send someone this way, but I'm also going to send someone either this way or this way, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see how this plays out, but conceptually what you guys need to do is, yeah, if they're going to play double shield, you can expect that they're going to be very strong on two angles, and it's going to be hard to beat those two angles. So you're going to need a third angle. I'm not saying no one can go in through those two angles. Someone will have to go in through at least one of those angles for your dive to work, but you're going to have at least three angles to win against a double shield team, right?
Yeah.
It's a little hard to do on this map, but let's see what you do.
Do you know which characters would set up each angle?
I do.
So,
I
like,
want to see a
Vault
little
Pacer one,
what they set up,
and, like,
and then we'll talk it
okay.
through, because I want to show you what they set up, because I'm used to what I'm seeing here, but you guys would adapt what you'd see a little bit based on what they do. For example, I would not have Frosty there right now.
got there before. His
Okay.
shields.
Yeah. I don't necessarily mind that he got here first. I'd have just put him more like over here type thing because I want my crossfire. And then they double stacked this, which makes sense sometimes if you're worried about another poke team and you need to beat that poke team in this while you have this happen, but you'd probably eventually drift someone over to here to deal with this. In this situation, it might be your Orisa. Could be your Sigma. If it was a Hog, it would definitely be your Hog. Okay, so you guys are going through here, and you're choosing to say, hey, let's send all three of our divers this way, and then we're going to send our core this way. Okay. I can potentially work with that. I don't need my core peeking yet, even remotely. If my core is peeking right now, if my div is peeking right now, it's to do something cute, like, hey, my Zen has a 5-orb charge, my Zen peeks and throws a 5-orb, my Diva DMs it, and we're doing this to create a minor little distraction while my dive team walks across this spot, because I don't want them to get chipped walking across this spot. If we're doing anything here, it's for that. The reality is, we're probably sitting on our hands, we're probably staring at each other going, hey guys, let's play some cards. Got any spades? Any spades? Like, we're probably sitting on our hands here because I don't want to fight this with Diva Zen Brig. Like, Zen is the only one. Like, Zen is like, you guys want me to fight this by myself? No, we're helping. Are you? Are you guys helping? Like, what do you like? Okay, so given that, we're going to hit this situation where these guys need to go through here, and that's fine. And we can force this Echo back easily. We can force this Echo back. This Echo isn't getting any more support. We should actually trap and eliminate this Echo. That's really what should happen here. If we'd seen a soldier, we might have tried to trap and eliminate this soldier over here. But again, we look at this. We're going to force our way through. We're going to make sure that we get ahead of her so that she can't get out, and we're going to create an elimination here. I'm usually not going to count on us being so lucky. Probably not quite how I want to do it. So this is okay, but I actually want to bring my Tracer and Ball through here more likely. And if I'm going to send anyone this way, it's probably my Sombra, because she can either go here stealthed or she can hang out on point. On point isn't great for her, but what we get is who has better medium or medium-ish range? Tracer, Sombra, or Ball?
Sombra?
Right. Sombra, unfortunately, sort of has the best range of my heroes, so unless there was someone here to overwhelm, like if there's a flanker here to pick on, an Echo, a Tracer, a Ball, a Torb, if there's someone back here to pick on and eliminate, we can team up and beat them. If there's not, we're going to want multiple angles like we talked about, and 2 angles isn't necessarily going to be enough. We might win with 2 angles, but I can't promise that we're going to win with Tracer Ball from this direction and Core from this direction. So, like, maybe I can put someone over here. Maybe I'm going to send Tracer over here, get across over here, something like this, and do this. But then Tracer's going to be exhausted and just get run down. They're going to beat Tracer, and then they're going to push out and fight again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if this isn't really an option to you, unless you ran like an Echo, a Pharah, something like that, we're now in a situation where to get our 3 angles, we probably want to send our Tracer Ball through here and our Sombra out here. Again, if there's someone to punish here, so be it. If there's someone to punish here, so be it. Now there's not, so that's what we'd look to do. And we need to not get chipped on the way in. Ball is already taking half damage before we've gotten in, and Tracer's double blinking in right now. And we're just now stealthing. So we see our initiation here is a little messy. I do like that my D.Va is pushing right now. I don't necessarily like that my Zen isn't really pushing yet. So we have a little bit of a timing issue. But we also, this team is basically unsupported right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We only get supported by hacks, health hacks.
Right. Right. So we go, okay, this is a little bit of a problem. So the truth is, we can either go, our core pushes from here while we do this, and we'd like, again, if our ball would come from here, we're probably going in with more health. If our backline is pushing, as our divers are pushing, that's probably a little bit better, and also our Tracer can be in and more dangerous. And that's going to work a little bit better for us. The only other way we can have set this up is we can have actually said, no, we accept that we're not going to get that. We recognize that that team is more powerful than us in poke, and we're actually going to rotate our core to something a little more over here, or even over here, and we're going to threaten from here. And if we threaten with core from here or here, that's not amazing for us, but that now allows us to send flankers in from here and here, while our core pokes on a sightline that sort of works for them, right?
Yeah.
So this is something you might want to think about. If you go, hey, we're willing to just surrender this initial thing while the point is still unlocking, we're willing to go, hey, we don't need to run this down, that's something that we could do. That said, we like being able to run in, get our Brig and our D.Va some value. That's understandable. Fine, we'll do it. So either one of those could potentially work, but this is not timed appropriately. Your Tracer is staying out too much. D.Va and Brig are walking in, that's good.
The objective is now
And you have a chance of grinding this down.
Time to read my BPM.
And now you should win. And that's good. This worked. Ultimately, your execution was better than theirs, but you do see that your ball took too much damage on the way in. Your Tracer really was at an ineffective range, used blinks to get in, and we were a little late with our Zen here. But you do see conceptually, you had more angles than them, and that ground down an advantage for you, even though your timing wasn't perfect, right?
They win here because their tanks are healthy.
Do they end up
kinda
turning
just
this?
go
That's
along.
disappointing.
Yeah.
They shouldn't. Oh, because you guys are pushing in too hard now. Got it.
Time to read my BPM.
Okay. You've actually already won this fight, if you get these guys out. There's basically, you can get this mega and leave. You can leave. We want a situation where they have to push back into what we're controlling and all the pressure is on them. We don't want a situation where we are in this. This might feel good, like, hey, we've got them surrounded. We've got this situation where they're surrounded, and this is actually better than I would expect us to get, this surround here. And if Sombra breaks the lamp, maybe we still do get them. But we already had a situation where we could just be like, hey, we can set up out here, and it's really hard for them to push back in, and we are putting the pressure on them because we're going to slide someone around. We would usually be our, potentially we could look at this and say, hey, slide our Zen around to take this, something like this. Obviously, your Zen's not an option right now, but that's generally the situation that you'd try to create. You wouldn't necessarily need to force this fight unless you feel like, hey, they have less resources than we do right now. And I don't think that's true, because you guys just hit a dive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And after hitting a dive, you might have gotten eliminations, but you probably spent a lot of your resources, your pile drives, your blinks, your recalls, like your repair packs, your diva boosters, you probably spent a lot of resources. So we would like to stabilize, and once we have resources, maybe we go in again, but we probably don't because we like our positional advantage. Does that sort of make sense? Okay.
So you wait for your resources, and could you do some point pressure while doing that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, not only are you doing point pressure, you're using map terrain to create a situation that they have to walk into, and what actually makes them walk into it is the fact that you're putting a little bit of point pressure on them. You see what I'm saying? Like the fact that you'll either cap the point or you'll start getting percentage while they're boxed away from the point creates a situation where they don't want to wait here forever. They might wait to recover resources too, but at some point they have to walk out. Maybe that's a walk out with Fortify. Maybe that's a walk out with Shift. Maybe that's okay, we've got all of our resources. Let's throw Lamp down and try to round the corner and fight you type thing. But in fighting you, our back is exposed to you. In fighting you, our back is exposed to you type thing. And you guys have all of your abilities, whereas they're having to sort of initiate in with their Fortifies, with their lamps, things like that. Whereas if you go in, you're initiating in with your Diva boosters, with your blinks. You see how that's more expensive?
Yeah.
Okay. Which is not me saying that, like, being the initiator is wrong. It's absolutely not, but positional advantage matters. And when you guys were the initiator earlier, you did it with a positional advantage. Right now, you didn't have a positional advantage. You had to force your way through with your tracer and your ball to get this positioning, which is now good positioning, but you had to spend to get here and then immediately fight. You didn't go, oh, we're getting to start with a good angle on you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. They're able to, punish the ball and tracer that have basically no room to play back here, so that's not terribly surprising. You guys are forced into this direction, and now all their barriers work in the one direction that they have to play against, and they beat you, right? So that's just an example of why this doesn't work. If they're here and here, they can't really do that to you, but no big deal.
So I have a question regarding that. Because I left.
Mhm.
Should I have left, or should we have stayed and fought the two tanks?
Let's take a look here. You do this. I mean, you can potentially win this still. Like, your ball can go get a health pack, come back, you can win this. Like, I do think that this is still a very winnable situation. Are you leaving to go apply point pressure?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to apply
Yeah.
point pressure right now. We wanted to apply point pressure when the fight was sort of static and nothing was happening to force them to take a bad engage. It's way more important to win this fight than it is to, you're not even losing point progress right now, right? Like, it's not a situation where they're getting ahead, they're getting point progress. It's more important to win fights, and this would be the same thing. If you were pushing Cart, we used Gibraltar as an example earlier, if you were pushing Cart along second as Diva, as Gibraltar, and your team was fighting, and maybe you had you had a soldier and an Ash on your team. If your soldier or Ash got jumped, you would leave Cart to go peel for them if your team had high ground, right?
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Um, sorry, could you repeat the question?
Sure. So if you're pushing cart, if you're pushing cart along on Gibraltar second, let's say, and your soldier and Ash have high
Mhm.
ground, you know they've set up on left and right side, they've got some nice high ground, and an opposing monkey and diva jumps them, or a ball jumps them, or a Genji jumps them, you would be willing to leave cart basically immediately, even though it would mean now 0 people are on cart and the cart's not moving, to go peel for your soldier or Ash on high ground, right?
Yes,
Why?
because they are being pressured by Monkey.
Sure, but now you're not getting cart progress, right?
Yeah, but there's a engage. I need to deny it.
Okay.
Wants to win the fight.
Right.
Yeah.
Winning the fight gets you more cart progress than just a little bit here and there. And hey, winning the fight is the way to go. And if you can use the threat of cart progress to make the fight happen on bad terms for the opponents, or you can get cart progress for free, it's absolutely great. And someone does have to move the cart when the fight's not happening, but ultimately winning the fight has a lot bigger influence on what happens with the cart or what happens to the King of the Hill objective here. So yes, ideally, you would not have left this. You just decided that we'd lost here, and the truth is, with you still alive, potentially we walk through those barriers and take them out, but not a big deal. You probably put more pressure on the Sigma, not the Orisa here, because you're tracking cooldowns, but even if you're not tracking cooldowns, Orisa can turn herself into a brawler effectively with Fortify for a little bit. Sigma really can't. Shift doesn't really work for that for Sigma. Yes, Sigma has Rock, but we can really cancel either of Sigma's abilities with Bash. We're pretty happy with that, but not a big deal. Okay. Okay. So we're doing this, but we can't afford to just stall point like this. We're not going to be very good at anchoring point for long periods of time, because any anchoring of point that we do is going to be us taking damage, us spending resources, and we're not going to recover those very quickly on this comp, are we? Like we're running
No.
Brig Zen. What's that?
I was gonna say no, not with Zenberg.
Right. So it's okay to do it. It's okay to do what we have to here, a little bit of anchoring point, but really we're going to have to pull a dive pretty darn fast for this to work, or we're going to have to surrender points and just, punish whoever goes to point or punish people somewhere else while they go to point. Like if they put a Torb on point, that Torb isn't helping them elsewhere as amazingly. So this isn't amazing for us. They came out with the Torb. That makes our job tough. We can try to anchor this, but ultimately we need to set up a real dive to happen, and now we can't. Okay, so now we're just feeding ult charge. I mean, we're stalling a little bit, but we're feeding a fair amount of this. Sure. Usually you'd have been a little more interested in taking angles, wearing this team down. Like, yes, you can stall point a little bit, but stalling point is only helpful if you're creating an advantage for yourself while it's happening. It's not only useful, you're getting some percentage, so there's some value there, but we'll walk this through in the next fight and sort of show what I mean here. So we're setting up with our angles, I hope. Sombra goes behind for free, yep.
Should we dive here?
Sure. So you have to look at this and decide ultimately it's going to be based on which heroes are good to dive as well as who's isolated. And we're going to look at this situation. And I mean, at this particular moment, we're going to be in a situation where potentially if our dive team goes after BAP and takes it out while our core pushes this way, that would make us pretty happy, right? Like we've got a little bit of line of sight obstruction for our core to help protect them against this. It's not perfect. We've got a BAP that's way out of position and definitely someone that can be taken down by our dive team, and that's perfectly fine with us. It'll be two different battles happening at once, but that's not unusual for how this comp works. Like these guys getting in a fight, for example, if they were playing in a mirror or even against a Winston dive, they might be fighting Winston, and while they're fighting Winston, their core might be on the other team's core to stop that core from supporting Winston. Well, this is a double shield, nothing too complicated. We're going to take our dive team on who makes sense as long as we manage to make sure both groups are fighting at the same time and they're fighting people that, would have helped each other if they weren't. We don't need to fight a losing battle, for example, which is more likely to be this one of the two if this Sigma wouldn't have been able to get help from his BAP. But would this Sigma, if we dove this BAP, would this Sigma turn around and help this BAP?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But can he really do that if he's being walked at by a Zen Brig Diva?
No.
Right. So we're going to make our Brig a little more distracted. We're going to make the Sigma completely distracted. We're potentially going to distract these guys a little bit, and we're going to very quickly take out the BAP and the Torb turret here, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Cool. Thrilled to hear it. Okay, we might not get quite that option, but we'll get something very similar. Maybe it'll be on the Brig. She's valid. Okay, so again, I don't love this. We're coming in this way, and I think there's very little reason not to go this way. It creates a shorter sight line for you guys, which is your preference. And as we're going in here, our core is pushing. So core's got the timing down. We like that. Not sure why Brig is going this way. Probably to get a
I'm
repair
trying to
back
go on
off.
the Orisa here.
Oh, you're trying to get on the Orisa. Got it. Okay, because we've picked this
Yeah,
as our
it's
dive
good
target.
idea.
Got it. This is a terrible idea. We do not want to dive Orisa, because if we dive Orisa when she has Fortify, are we ever going to take her down through Fortify?
No.
No.
We're terrible at taking
We're-
down our Orisa who's fortified with armor, and even if somehow we are making progress, A, she's going to get healing, but B, there's still going to be lamp on the table. So, like, it just miserable to try and do that. Okay, no problem. So what is your solution to this supercharger?
Postpone it.
You got it.
Kite it.
You could start the dive and then back out immediately if you still have abilities and just wait it out. But yeah, probably pulse bomb it is the real solution. Okay. Easy peasy. We get our scouting. Tom Joe, please don't spend health right now. Oh, boy. Okay. So again, we're for some reason interested in going this way. As we're doing this, our Tracer is still staging, so our Tracer definitely isn't ready for this push, but we've decided that we are making this push right now. This is probably early with this Transcendence. I don't mind the push happening, but unless we're going to lose someone...
Pass.
Yeah, that's early. Maybe we felt like there were shots coming at us that were going to eliminate us, but I would much rather have this trans to activate, like, here, as opposed to back here. And yes, it is a difference. You're fast as Zen, but your Brig, for example, will not keep up with this push. And...
Shouldn't we?
Go ahead.
Shouldn't have we waited for
Tracer?
rallying rather than use trans?
No, I don't necessarily care. Are you using trans as your answer to anything? I mean, you could say trans is your answer to flux, and that could be a problem. Is that what you're thinking? Like, hey, we need trans to answer flux, so you'd rather initiate with rally?
That, but you could also just EMP the flux.
Sure. Okay.
When he gets-
So then I'm okay with transing now and rallying later. Like, fine with me. It's also going to be hard to take you guys down in the flux if you've got a bunch of rally armor. And I don't expect this fight to break long enough for him to get a clean flux, do you?
No.
Okay, so I'm pretty okay with this. Rather than just give them more percent, I'm pretty okay with it. It's not going to make a huge difference to me. It's not going to be worth waiting, in my mind, for the rally, especially when she doesn't have anyone to brawl with, anyone to get good ult off of. So yeah, let's do this, and then she'll easily have her ult in time. Again, it's a lot of ult power that we're using. But we've put them here. If our target focus is good, even with our timing not being amazing, our Brig and Tracer were both late. This could work. They're going to Molten Core. They're going to Flux.
Wait for it.
We EMP. Okay. Nothing too wild there in terms of what happened. We were effectively late. They had some ability to answer that with their Molten Core, and we just didn't solve some of the problems fast enough. But this wasn't fundamentally a terrible engage here. Like, yes, it was this situation where they hit this flux. They unfortunately got the perfect timing of, hey, literally perfect timing on that flux, and you guys don't have great answers, and that's not going to be great for you. But that's not a big deal. You don't need to solve every ult situation perfectly. It's much more important to get the fundamentals down that'll help your neutrals, because they'll also help your ult fights, even if you still sometimes lose ult fights. And your fundamentals would be getting the angles and timing down on this, really. Okay. Hard comp to... No, this is doable. You just don't really have the time that you need. Okay, rally push, TP.
Overtime.
Mostly considering this junk time. Okay, so if I look at this point, again, the most interesting things to me are I want to get our timing a little bit tighter. You've sort of conceptually got it of, hey, we need to hit them from multiple directions. I probably don't want my ball coming in here. It's just longer than it needs to be. I don't want my Tracer being late. I probably want my ball and Tracer more ready to go from here, where they have a shorter dive. And again, I would like my push here to happen in a little bit more synchronized of a manner. That last time we were sort of missing Tracer and Brig, they were late. The first time we had the situation where a ball loses half of his health before he's even in, and our Tracer is a little bit late, or has to, use 2 blinks to get in rather than 1, however you want to think about that. So and then we have here, okay, hold the outside, that's fine, and also understand what objective pressure and when objective pressure makes sense. And it doesn't make sense while the fight is hugely happening, unless you're trying. It sort of makes more sense to restart the fight, to put pressure on the opponents, to make them fight again if they're waiting, type thing. But that's okay. Those are the big things I'd look at for this one. Do you guys have any questions before we move on to the third point?
No.
Okay.
No, it's synced.
Ready for battle.
What's that?
No, it's trying.
Okay. Yes. Oh,
Wait,
we
how
gotta.
we looked, what should we have played?
I mean, I can't really evaluate your poke off of that because your poke was super rushed, and that's not like you can't really play that super rushed because you're sort of like, oh, we need to take the poke battle, we need to win this, and we need to go to point. Like you guys just didn't have time. I think what you did, you could absolutely make that Tracer Sabra comp work on that map. I don't necessarily think it's the strongest comp, but I don't think it's incredibly weak. And obviously, you're walking out on what's going to be a counter comp to what most people are running. What's going to hurt you a little bit is a team's blind pick Torb. That team did not blind pick Torb against you, but it's been in vogue to blind pick Torb on that map sometimes to make your team more resistant to enemies that blindly pick dive against you. So that would be a little bit of a concern, but you're going to be just fine. As you saw, you can take plenty strong enough fights. Obviously, you lost that last fight or the second last fight that you'd have liked to win there, but a little bit of timing, a little bit of the ults that were available, that sort of thing. But every other, like, we had 3 good winnable fights there, right?
Yeah.
So I think the comp that you ran, that dive comp was going to be fine for you guys. If you really feel like, hey, no, we have great poke stuff, okay, we can do that. But I think if you did, you'd probably already be running that. Is that fair?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Five, 4, 3, 2,
Oh, right.
1. Round 3. Capture the objective.
Okay.
So they actually they roll out on this comp, on this ball comp,
Yep.
and then they decide to rush Miros. and we
Okay. Do
struggle.
they leave to go rush Miros?
No, it's like after this fight, I think.
Okay. Got it. Got it. That's fine. Look at this one more time. We're going up here. What are your thoughts right now, Lucio? Is our Lucio player here?
Oh no.
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 Okay, I'll do. I'd be worried about a Brawlmere here, so I'd actually go, hey, once we see what they have, it's not a concern, but before that, until I know that, speeding your team along here is good, and then sort of for the last second or two, you actually want to get ahead of your team, literally just for like the last second, and go here to potentially keep a Brawl team out for a second. So we
Alright.
give our team speed most of the way along to get them most of the way here, and then we're like, yep, leaving you behind while riding ahead of you guys, because you want to get here right as the opposing team is getting here, as Lucio, so that you can just apply a quick boop to keep them out for an extra second. And that will get your team more onto point, better positioning than staying with your team the entire time. So we want to be like right up until about here, and then we leave type thing. And you've got the ability to do that, but that's okay.
But if they're also really good at like Brawl, wouldn't their Lucio also be looking to do the same thing to?
Yep. So what you're going to end
our
up
team?
happening is either you're both going to end up doing it, or the Lucios are going to see each other because they crossed on the same side, and they'll boop each other back, and nothing will happen.
Oh, okay.
And that's fine, right? Like just because there's the possibility that they're going to do it doesn't mean that we don't want to do it, because we'll take our free wins where we can get them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're gonna walk at them, sure. I don't know that we're organized in who we're going after. Okay. Cool. Sure. I really don't feel like we needed to stabilize there. So, like, here we go. We try to run. We get a team. I like it. And now we have to make a decision of who we're going to go after next. Now, this might be the problem right here. Do you need to... The point's 10 seconds till unlock. Why does this feel like a place we should stabilize? We're spending lamp to stabilize here, and it's not even totally going to work, right? Because we've also got to protect the lamp, so we're still getting shot. We're spending, not recovering Rhine Shield. Hopefully we're recovering health with BAP heals and such right now, but like, we're getting shot by Soldier in one direction, Diva in another direction. We know their spawns are from this direction, even if the Zen that was there isn't shooting us anymore. After we took out the Zen, couldn't we have just chilled in here and said, we dare you to fight us?
Yes.
There's no way. There's no way that they're going to come in here to fight you, right?
Yeah, I think we were just trying to get back to point and then stabilize there, but that's probably the wrong call.
Yeah, and even if point was unlocked, I wouldn't be super worried about it, because you're going to beat them once you've taken someone out if you didn't lose anyone. You can spend your resources, you can spend your lamps, you can spend your amps, you can spend your Diva boosters and Matrix, you can spend your Rhine shields while you're out in the open, and then stabilize in closed space with some degree of safety, and then go back out and get more. But you want to think of this as like closed space to closed space rotation. You don't want to go closed space to open space, chill in open space, chill in open space, chill in open space. Oh, I guess we should get back to closed space. Do you guys know what I mean when I say closed space?
Like,
I
Cover?
mean, sort of enclosed has lots of cover to it. So this point has some degree of cover to it. It's not perfect, but you have a ceiling that helps against Pharah. You have walls that help against them. This is an obvious closed space where, like, this is enclosed and safe, and there's only 2 different ways to shoot, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is more enclosed. Is a Pharah going to fight you in here?
No.
No.
Are, like, monkeys
way.
and such going to have a great time fighting you in here?
No.
Okay.
No.
Enclosed space, semi-enclosed space, we'll take it. Whereas something like this is a totally open space, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we want to think of our pathing as closed space to closed space, and we might go through people. We might go, we're taking out Zen and then going to the closed space, but it's closed space to closed space against these poke teams. Okay, and I don't really like this because you guys are like sort of trying to stabilize here, and then Tom Joe's going, oh, I need to contest the pharmacy. I mean, we could, if we're actually fighting right now, we could contest the pharmacy, but Tom, you only get to contest the pharmacy for about 5 seconds if we're lucky, right? And then you're sort of not able to contest her for a bit.
Yeah.
So that needs to happen while our team is in the open. And that means our team should only be in open space for about 5 seconds at a time. So this is what I call the 5-second rule, and the concept is that you'd be in a closed space like this, gaining resources. You'd run out here to fight someone, to eliminate someone. Maybe that's a D.Va, maybe that's a Zen, maybe that's whatever. Maybe that's, you know, a Winston that made a mistake, a soldier that got hacked, whatever. I don't care. So, like, you're going to run into the open space to run over that person, and within about 5 seconds, you need to be back in a closed space unless you got an elimination. Because 5 seconds is about as much abuse you guys can take while spending resources, and during those 5 seconds, the biggest threat to you guys is always going to be this flyer combo, the pharmacy. So Tom Joe, it's your job to contest that as best you can for those 5 seconds. Your team, however, has retreated back to closed space now, and now you're contesting, and now your team basically, you sort of have an on for 5 seconds, off for 5 seconds. You're not going to be able to contest her until you have Matrix back, until you're healed up, until you have boosters again after this. So you're sort of going to make your team wait in closed space again for a bit, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
The objective
Except that,
is
you know, you guys went and eliminated the Mercy because of roof surfing. But hey, we'll take it.
I'm pretty sure this is really Garash.
Yeah.
Okay. So they should have no ults. You guys will have a window. Okay. They're pushing main on us, which is sort of interesting of them. I can live with that
Because they have the wall.
because they have the wall. Oh, the May wall?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I'm pretty interested in setting up some off-angle control here. Like, we look at this, and you guys are running your Tracer plus McCree. So we'll look to go, hey, now we're a lot less worried about the closed and open space, and we're a lot more interested in, hey, where are we going to get these guys? Where are we going to fight them? If they have the wall, they're likely to be better than you in the actual brawl, but you can pick them apart a little bit, make them uncomfortable, and you're going to have better angle control because of your Tracer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if we're looking for that to happen, we're going to fan out a little bit. We're going to set our McCree up in this power position type thing over here. Maybe we're going to have our team here. And we probably want the fight to happen. We could have the fight happen like right around here. We could have the fight happen here with the wall. That's fine. They're going to hit their wall. They're going to do the splits. We'll still be able to protect our Reinhardt. That's perfectly fine. In fact, let's go for that. Let's say, hey, we're going to fight them. We're going to poke them with our off angle from over here with our Tracer. And as they run in, we'll fight, whatever. As they pull back, you know, our McCree's fighting now from here. They do their wall shenanigans. We protect with the D.Va boosters, whatever we have to there. You know, D.Va going up on top of the wall to DM our Reinhardt when Rein gets separated by the wall, because we're assuming they'll hit a decent wall. And then as they push in and their wall's over, that's okay. We're going to continue to weather the storm. We're going to have our own, you know, McCree shots from over here, our Tracer picking them apart from the back. We're just going to beat this with angles. Nothing too wild. So we look at this. Except that we might actually, in this case, I forgot. Sorry, that's why I wanted to take the fight here. We have window. We don't actually have window yet. Ooh, yikes. Okay. We probably needed to force ourselves getting window. Okay, that's unfortunate. Yeah, now they're going to be in. You're going like this. Sure, good. We hit our good off angle. We like that. I do not expect to lose our Rhine here. Okay, so that's a problem. We lost our Rhine. Why did we lose our Rhine? They have wall and we don't, and that is a pretty serious disadvantage, don't get me wrong. And our Tracer is nowhere to be found, which is also a problem. So Tracer being nowhere to be found is definitely an issue. They've got
This
themselves...
is a Kree checking.
Sure. That's an issue, but how do we not lose Reinhardt here? We have like 2 different ways to protect our Reinhardt. Go ahead.
They walled the Reinhardt immediately as the Baptiste was falling, so he couldn't jump. or
Oh,
see the
Baptiste
line
was
before.
had just done a jump, and that's why we're stuck.
Yeah.
Routing.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm not sure why Baptiste jumped, but that is what happened. We probably didn't need to jump here. Like I can look back at this.
Got you good as new.
Yeah, there was already something to shoot at, top of D.Va's head there.
Got you good as new.
Like we can see, yeah, jumping is nice here. We created a little bit of a vulnerability window by doing this. Not the end of the world. That comes up. We also would, in this situation, basically immediately boost her up as D.Va to protect this with DM. Like, that's just necessary to do so. But that's life.
I don't get him in time.
Yep. Sure.
Routing tower. Forward shield. Time to raise my APM. Nalaganda.
So should we have fed for window there?
Yeah, I'd have liked to pull a window engage on this team because you had the ult advantage and you knew it. I'd have liked to go, hey, let's do what we have to push, put a little bit of poke on this team just to get ourselves window or let them poke us a little bit because I wanted to window this team when they were about here, when we can have our Tracer coming in from here, our McCree threatening from here, and our core just threatening down here with window to punish them here because it's just too big of an advantage that they're immediately going to have to spend their wall for. And you don't really care, right? Because they're immediately going to spend their wall, you're going to break their wall, and they're still going to be in a bad situation, right?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, we'd have liked to recognize the situation, in that situation push up to either let our BAP shoot them a little bit or to take a little damage to feed and get our BAP his ult. Not a big deal. Mm-hmm.
Hiya. Hi.
Okay, you guys have to decide how you're going to path in here. You've got... Okay, you've got High Noon, Pulse, and Shatter.
Almost full.
Yep. But they have ults too now, so they're sort of going to be less powerful as a result, just because they have things to answer with. Okay, so this can happen.
Yeah, we should have gone main.
Yeah, I don't love it. We're sending everyone main except Tracer. It's going to be a little more pressure on us than I like. I probably was more interested in pushing this way, but that's okay. We'll deal. We don't have any sort of off-angle setup for our McCree, so it's all going to be on our Tracer. Yeah, this isn't going to be amazing. There's their window. We just leave. Sure. We don't have a wall to lift it, and there's nothing to be found here. But this is pretty big now. Okay, we can hit their Shatter. You guys see what you did there. You guys, for their High Noon, you got their Lamp out, you got their Wall out. This is a team that even with them having choke advantage, even if you didn't have Shatter, you'd have pushed into the now, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure you recognize it.
冻住，不许走！ 冻住！
Okay. Obviously, I'd have liked that blizzard to be eaten, but that's okay.
I'm back.
Getting some value. We don't. No, we do have our answer, and our answer is going to be beat. But ultimately, they have both of these going. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I'm back in the fight.
Okay. So obviously, this is. Oh, now we've swapped over to the Doomfist. Okay, that's actually a little easier of a matchup for us. Good.
Hi. 안녕.
I don't really want to do this yet.
안녕.
So I'm unlikely to get a pick off with my McCree here. I don't really have sustain, and now I've sort of revealed that this is the path I'm on. And this isn't like a soft off angle for us of like, oh, hey, I'm pushing here. I'm a little bit of an off angle for my team, and I'll go deeper later. Like, you're the only one poking here. You're basically trying for a pick off play, and you're weakening your ability to get a pick off later when your team actually is engaged by poking at this moment, basically by yourself.
안녕.
Okay. Sure.
So, is this where the McCree should have poked?
Yep.
Now.
This is basically exactly when that happens. The McCree now revealing themselves puts them in. I mean, they shouldn't have been willing to retreat here with the fact that your McCree was here. But yeah, this is the situation where, oh, shoot, we have a McCree shooting us from over here. We can't really go deal with that. Do we send our Diva to deal with that? Do we assign our McCree to mark that and just hope that he wins the fight when your McCree has cover options? Like, what are we going to do? Are we going to have to lamp? Are we going to have to get our own ice block forced? Are we going to Maywall in this direction? Like, yes, that's what we're hoping to get out of our off angle like that. That said, we've now gone in with our Doomfist. This is not amazing as an engage. Why isn't this amazing as an engage for us? We can rewind it a couple seconds.
They're very healthy.
No, they're going to be healthy. That's just how it works with this comp. We actually want less of the poke phase than they do now because they have the McCree May. We have the Doomfist McCree, so May is a little bit more poke pressure for them. So in theory, they'd be happier with the longer poke phase than we would. We want we went heavier brawl with the Doomfist here. But when our Doomfist goes in like this, our tanks also have to go in, which they're trying to do. Did she not have wall available? I didn't notice a wall earlier. Yeah, forget this Doomfist. I'm walling right here every time, and your Doomfist is alone, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's why I didn't like this. We engaged into a perfect wall for them, and we'd already forced them off point. So whether they have better poke or not, we were in this situation where we could set up reasonable angles against them, and they had to walk back onto our point, and they didn't want to do. They were going to have to walk into our concave, and once they did, their wall becomes a lot less good. We can set up our Reinhardt to punch, or our Doom to punch him to the side if we need to. We had point pressure on them. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So instead, we engaged into this where their May should have. Yeah.
Taking off. ATM도 올려볼까? Time to wait.
So we can talk this through. Obviously, you guys sort of understood the brawl into the poke to a degree there. There's more that we can do, but I see we struggled in the brawl v brawl. Most of what we ran for brawl v brawl though wasn't like the traditional, I'll say, brawl v brawl. We weren't running the Kree May. We were running Kree plus Tracer and then Kree plus Doom. So is that because we feel like, oh, we really want the Tracer? Is that because we don't like the May? Like, what's our thought process going into that?
I think for the Tracer, we thought they would win ball and then we would have the Tracer contest, like one of their flankers.
Yeah.
Oh, got it. You wanted the Tracer because of what you wanted the Tracer to help you against their more divey comp, right?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just planning to check flankers in case that was a
Okay.
issue.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, you're going to need to do a little bit more. Like, you're not going to be quite as strong as them in the brawl when they end up on the brawl. So you're really going to need to drive those angles. You're really going to need to get that value. And you're going to have to sort of soften them up and get, try to get a little bit more out of them. Because that May wall is going to be a really strong engage. So we're going to have to make Tracer make our team the better poke team. Which means we're going to have to get the, hey, let's get our soft engages, let's mess you up, let's apply our pressure here, let's apply our pressure here, keep your McCree wanting to turn away, your May wanting to turn away, your Diva wanting to turn away, to give our McCree more time to do advantage. Because we're not, like, that May wall is a really strong advantage that they're getting, and we don't have something to equalize it like the explosive power of a Doomfist, right?
So do you
Yeah.
think I should just like tickle them from angles or what?
I think
Or
you
do you want
should
me to like,
find a
go in with
way.
timing?
I think you should find a way to get lamp out of them. You should find a way to get May ice block out of them. You need to get
Okay.
some of the meaningful cooldowns out of them, either very quickly when the brawl starts or on their way in. And that can be when they're in this, open spot here. You go, hey, I'm going in here while my McCree is shooting from here type thing, and between us we're able to get a couple meaningful cooldowns. He closes the angle. Obviously, our BAP is shooting from here, whatever, but like we're able to manipulate a little bit of a poke advantage as they're having to walk into us because they want the straight brawl where their May wall can do the most work, and you're saying we don't want anything to do with that. And same thing on the way back in. Your team might be going, hey, we're going to try to push in this way, but you are going, I have to get something out of you, be it your ice block, be it your Diva boosters and some meaningful health, be it your lamp and your McCree then, opens the angle from here type thing. But we're going to have to use the fact that we have Tracer to get more angles, and more angles is going to mean we're happier for a grindier phase and we're less happy for like a true rush at each other phase. Like, we don't want them to be able to rush at us until we have something out of them. You follow?
Yeah.
Okay. And when they do rush at us, yes, we're going to have to go in. Like, when they do rush at us, yes, our Tracer's going to have to go in. Our McCree's going to have to open that angle and do work. But if we can get some work done beforehand, that's going to help. That said, most of the time, we'd probably take a closer mirror or the Doomfist version. The Doomfist version is fine, but we'd probably, we're probably long-term going to be happier if we know we're playing Brawl v Brawl on either a Doomfist brawl, a May brawl, something along those lines. Okay. Do we have any other questions? Anything else you guys want to get into here?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
So I have a big problem with like mid fights.
Mhm.
I expect on any comp, like either on any off tank.
Mhm.
I just like about like half of the time I know what I'm doing, and the other times I lose track
Sure.
of what I'm supposed to be doing.
On any of the off tanks on Diva, sorry, give me that one more time. So mid fight, about half the time you're losing track of what you're doing in every matchup on every off tank. Like, can you give me a little bit more
every comp.
parameter wise? Okay, every comp. Okay, got it.
All comp, brawl. Yeah.
Got it. So here's the thing. There's a couple ways to cure that. On Diva, so some of it is matchup dependent, right? Like I just told you on Diva, you're going to break off and go deal with the pharmacy or the Echo Mercy, whatever, while your team is running people down. That's what you're going to do. On Diva, you might have to answer off angles. That is a thing that you have to do. But you could almost say in general, you can either make a team better, like people used to get hard into target calling, and sometimes we still do. Target calling is good, like having your Mei target call for you, your Ryan target call for you can be very useful in helping you, especially if you're trying to rush down other teams. But if you're playing for a more slow, steady style, it can actually just help, rather than focusing hugely on target calling, to actually just have everyone on the same page of who's the most dangerous target to you in most situations.
The flankers.
Usually like a Pharah or something.
Okay, we got
Pharah
some different
McCree.
answers there. We got a Pharah, we got a Kree, we got the flanker. Okay, okay. Um, those are DPS heroes. What if there's a hog at a 90-degree angle to your team? Is he the most dangerous hero at that point?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. What if there's a what if there is a team walking at you and there's a Zarya at a I don't know, let's call her a 60-degree off angle. And the rest of her team is behind her Reinhardt. Who's the most dangerous hero at that point?
The
Sorry.
team. Because the Zarya, depending on the energy, like if it's 0, not that dangerous than the team. If 100, she's a lot more dangerous.
Sure, sure. Individually, she's more dangerous than the team, though. Yes, than each member of the
Yes.
team. Okay. Okay. And let me just do one more here. If you guys are running Brawl v Brawl, and let's say you're fighting straight on against each other, and the Reinhardt's right here, the opposing Reinhardt is right here, and the opposing Mei is right here, so she doesn't even have that big of an off angle, but she's here, and the rest of her team is just behind the Reinhardt, she's the most dangerous hero, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, I don't even need to call that. If you all individually understand that the hero that has the angle, has the biggest angle, is sort of the furthest away from the Reinhardt, is the most dangerous, that should always be like who you're thinking about as your target. Now, obviously you might not go, well, Ball has the biggest angle on us and he's behind us. Well, that he might be the most dangerous, but he's only the most dangerous if he's actually in. If he's not in, he probably doesn't matter. But like if he is in, he actually might be the most dangerous. Like if we went into a situation where wait, there's a Winston that's actually on our back line, he's effectively at a 180-degree angle to the rest of his team. Your Reinhardt might say, hey, I'm not letting the rest of the team in, but most of you are interested in dealing with this character that has a 180-degree off angle on your team, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as a general rule, you're kind of interested in as an off tank, but really as everyone, apply pressure to the hero that has the off angle, and your target focus will be pretty good, but B, you'll do good damage, but C, as an off tank player, well, as Sigma, you often have to answer an off angle. Like, okay, the team's pushing in, let's say we're rotating together, my Orisa, my Reinhardt is covering this side, I need to cover the off angle. I'm D.Va, I need to cover this Pharah who's off angling up here, maybe Soldier's also off angling, or Tracer's also in, but I need to cover this Pharah that's off angling, I don't need to cover the Zen, or whatever's going on. Okay, well, maybe we're in another situation where, okay, I'm on Hog, well, I need to off angle myself, and I'm going to get someone, and I'm not going to probably pull someone out of the middle of their team, I'm going to pull someone out of the side or the back of their team, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so like my point there would be, if you should generally guys be calling the target that's sort of got the slight or the has the off angle from the Reinhardt, that sort of thing in these matchups. But my general advice to you, Tom Joe, would be think about the off angle a lot. You're either going to want to apply your damage to someone that's on the off angle to make them leave that off angle and go back to their Reinhardt or go back to their core. Because even if they're a dive team, like if you beat back a Tracer and they go back to their core, your Zenbrig core, that's less dangerous to you. So like apply damage pressure to the target on the off angle, or relieve the damage pressure that's coming in, on the off angle, which is the same thing. You have to, as an off tank, you have to deal with the off angle. But really, all of you have to deal with the off angle. Does that help a little bit there, Tom Joe?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So as the fight gets messy, think about solving the angles that are in play that the opponents have, either with damage, out angling it yourself, or whatever the case may be there. Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions?
One final
Uh,
question. If there's a tracer and I'm having trouble scouting her,
Mm-hmm.
should it be the team's problem to help me scout her, or is it just my problem?
It depends on the
Since it's my
comp.
job to deal with her.
No, I mean it depends on the comp. It's not strictly your job to deal with her. If you guys are playing that Zen Ball comp, for example,
Mhm.
it's not your job to deal with her. Like it's the actual she shouldn't be allowed to get in because your team should be winning the lanes. Like your Zen, your whole team should be causing your team to win the lanes, win the flank route, so that she shouldn't have a way in. And if she tries to force her way in, she's going to spend a lot of blink. She's going to have had to walk past a Tracer, a Sombra, something like that, and you guys are going to crush her because she's going to be missing health, missing blinks, that sort of thing. So, like, it depends on the comp, but in, like, a divey comp versus divey comp, no, it's on everyone. You have lots of heroes that can scout. Your Tracer, your Ball, your Zen, they're probably going to do more scouting than you, in fact, because they have those lanes, they get to do that communication. In a comp like the one that you're in right now, you're going to be responsible for a lot of the scouting. That's just reality. If you don't know where she is, you don't know where she is. You're not going to let her paralyze your whole team waiting for 20 seconds trying to figure out where she is. You're going to take an educated guess, adjust based on where you think she is, but you're going to move on with your lives.
Okay.
I had a question.
Sure.
So our team plays a lot of ball,
'Kay.
and one of like the biggest things we have, as in matchups, like what we struggle with is like when a team, it's like either a rush or like a really bunkery comp.
Mhm.
They just, it's hard to like crack it open because it's just a lot of pressure and a lot of like, um, like shields or just
Sure.
a lot of zoning. You know.
Sure. Are you guys running the
So what
Ball
is the best
Zen
way to
comp a lot
approach?
then, or no? When you say Ball.
Yeah, ball
Okay.
Zen.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. So I'm going to expect.
Sometimes ball Ana Farah. Sometimes.
Okay. Okay. Less a fan, but that's fine. So you guys are running. I'm gonna pretend for a second Ball Zen, and then you're probably running a Tracer with that, and then you're running maybe a Sombra, maybe an Echo, maybe a Hanzo, maybe an Ashe, something in that world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah.
So obviously that's easier if you're running something with heavier poke, so Balls and Tracer and then like an Echo or something like that. That's going to give you an easier time cracking some of the brawls, for example. Against some of the more bunkery stuff, the Sombra is going to feel a bit better, but either one can work against both of them, and it is going to be about a brawl comp. You're going to out angle it. A brawl comp cannot chase you down if you take 3 angles against it. They really can't chase down any of your groups. They'll try to trace down your Zen comp, and sometimes they'll be sneaky because they'll have both Lucio and Symmetra, and then they actually can chase down your Zen portion pretty well. But short of that, you can out angle them, and even though they feel like they should be stronger heroes and they should out pressure you with their poke, with their McCree, with their Mei, with their BAP, like, hey, that's pretty good poke, they should be fine. If you're shooting inwards at them from 3 different directions and they're having to pick which direction to shoot out, you're going to exhaust them. It falls apart real fast if you lose anyone, but you're going to exhaust that comp and actually beat it even in a poke battle, even if you don't commit until you're already quite a bit ahead. Like, even if you don't go, oh, we're ahead and now even if you don't go, oh, we've set up our angles and we're instantly going to dive you, if you just grind it out with an angle advantage, even if you're running Tracer Sombra, with your angle advantage there, you're gonna grind down a team, not like super fast, but you're gonna do it. So you just go, hey, do this, don't lose people. You're gonna exhaust that team pretty nicely. And if we're looking at a bunker, it really is going to be a very similar thing where most bunkers are going to take 2 strong angles. They're not going to be able to take a 3rd strong angle. And yeah, it helps if you can dive them, and you are going to have to dive them at some point, and you dive them much sooner than you dive a brawl comp. And you do need to be in a place where your core can walk on them, but they're much less likely to walk on your core early. And also, you can just go, we're going to grind you down a little bit from multiple angles to get ahead to wear you down, and their resources don't cycle as well. I mean, Orisa's shield, Fortify, when she uses Fortify, she gets into a rough place where she can't keep up her shields. Her next shield, she's not going to have anything after. Sigma's shield only has 700 HP. Like, yeah, they have a lot of resources if they're allowed to sort of have moments of uninterrupted peace, but if you're like, no, we're shooting you from different angles, we're not allowing you to stack Orisa and Sigma shield to protect each other, we're making you use both at the same time in different directions, you can outlast that team from a, hey, we're just gonna pressure you type thing. Now, you would like to do this in a way where you can throw packs, throw harmony orbs at your tracers, your balls, your echoes, things like that. But if you take more angles, you actually can afford a poke phase even against a bunker comp. Even against a brawl
Does that
comp.
differ?
Go ahead.
Does that differ if we have point control or like not point control? So like if we're the ones trying to
Mhm.
break into them, or if they're trying to break into us?
Differs a
Like,
little
how does that
bit
differ?
because what's going to happen is going to be if they have point control, they're probably going to set up on or near point and you're going to exhaust them, and it's kind of what we just walked through. If you guys have point control, what's going to happen is you're going to need to get the exhaust on them as they're working their way through. So as they're going through here, you're going to need to figure out where they're going to rotate through with your scouting, and you're going to need to get to do some of your exhausting on the way in, because once they get to point, you are going to want to dive them before it flips in most situations. Against some brawl comps, you won't. You will let it flip, let them get another 12%, beat them, and still get your 20-30% to their 12%, if that makes sense. But you need to adjust to the direction that they're going to come in, continue to maintain angles around the direction that they're going to rotate in, continue to maintain angles as they get point, and then trigger your dive when it's time to trigger your dive. You're not planning to go, oh, we're just going to stall the point forever with our ball before triggering the dive or anything like that. You are planning to go, we wear you in on the way in, we wear you in on the way in, we make you walk into a kill box, and then we feel pretty comfortable and we are able to trigger our dive, but we got our exhaust done on you on the way in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Good questions. Anything else there?
So as I said it earlier, we're not a rush team, but it's better to play to your strengths as a team and what you're familiar with, which is, for us, ball. Or play what's meta and mirror the enemy team,
I mean,
which
I would
they're
absolutely
good
be
at
playing
what.
Zen Ball right now. Like, Zen Ball is meta right now. If you guys feel comfortable with your Zen Ball, play Zen Ball. I'd say Rush is probably, like, multiple things are played right now. As you can tell, you see Zen Ball
Mhm.
played. Your mate guys might not be seeing a ton of that in Diamond Scrims, but Zen Ball is getting played a fair amount right now. Double Shield is getting played a fair amount right now. Brawl is always going to come out on some maps because people want to go to Scrims Row, and then they're going to pull out their Brawl, and Lijiang Tower and pull out their Brawl, and Hey Village, let's pull out our Brawl. Brawl at the moment isn't weak enough to go away, but you can probably play Zen Ball in like 70% of the map pool, something along those lines, and be just
Oh,
fine
okay.
with that. You
Okay,
just
because
have to
the
understand how
new
it works. Go ahead.
okay, because the new main tank, Gordo that we picked up,
hmm
he's a Ryan main, so
Mm.
he wasn't really fond of us putting him on ball.
Okay, I mean, you do have to play to what makes sense for the team, right? Like, you might
Mhm.
discover that, hey, ball comps don't make as much sense for us anymore because our ball gets blown up, and hey, we have to work with reality, and we can play a pretty good brawl, or we can't play a pretty good brawl. So you guys are gonna have to figure out what works there, but you do use the player roster that you have. Like, I would say that brawl is not the strongest of the three sides of the triangle right now, but that doesn't mean that it isn't necessarily, it's still playable, especially on certain maps. And this is a map that it's fine to play Brawl on. I'd have been perfectly understanding if you'd walked out on Zen Ball on this map. I'd have been perfectly understanding if you'd walked out, yeah, really on Zen Ball on this map of the three would have been the most likely. You guys did on Sanctum, and that was fine as well. They walked out on Zenbo on Village there, and you could do that too. It just becomes a little silly to be fighting over Village with Zen ball mirrors, but hey, that's fine. Um, so yeah, I don't have the answer there because like your main tank isn't here. We can't talk about it as a team and be like, okay, hey, let's figure it out. I think you guys keep experimenting and seeing what works, but there's definitely ways to play Zenbo into, I mean, really into everything, but on most of these maps that you're talking about. But Brawl is pretty darn flexible too.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay.
So this is like my last question. So this may be like the same as like when you're playing into rush, like with the ball, but how does that change with like talon dive or like 6 men? Because it's a lot faster and it's harder to work. Do we just have to set up correctly and then just hit him?
Yeah, so what you're
Or is
looking
the
to do,
windows a
Talon
lot smaller?
Dive, Talon Dive's a bit of a pain. Really is. What you're looking to do when fighting Talon Dive is you need to make sure that the fights happen where your Zen contributes, right? Because your Zen is a monster to them. You'd like your Zen to be far away where they can't get to it. You'd like them to never be able to rotate on your Zen. And then you want the fight to happen in a place where your Zen gets to use their Discord Orb, gets to do things like that. You also should have a better ability to take angles than Talon Dive because you're running that Zen Brig as opposed to their Lucio Moira, which means you can help sustain, like if your Tracer takes a little damage, your ball takes a little damage setting up, you can heal that. Whereas if they start staging people, they really can't heal them very well, right?
Yeah.
So you battle for a little bit of lane control. Understand if they commit 6 people to a lane, they'll definitely win that lane from you, but then you just rotate everyone and set up different lanes and move your backline, etc. And you try to force them to fight in a place where they can't easily get on your Zen Brig, and your Zen is able to contribute to that fight. You basically force them to go, okay, we're going to fight your ball. We're going to fight your tracer. Like, okay, you can't really commit on a ball or a tracer, so we're just gonna leave and shred you. You sort of see what I'm saying?
So it's like try to have our Zen set up to where it's really unideal for them to go for it, but like they kind of have to, so
Right.
you can hit them when they're
And
trying to go on.
and ultimately, some maps are going to force you situations. You can't just retreat forever. Some maps are going to force situations where they can dive your backline. And what I'd remind you there is if you can get them to all use movement abilities to commit on your Zen, and then your ball hits a roll through from behind your Zen, oh, what do you know? You all used your movement abilities to get on my Zen, and then you got knocked back. What will you ever do? Now, they're still going to have speed. They're still going to catch back up eventually, but that's a pretty critical tool in your toolkit for keeping you alive in those situations, because they will happen. Okay,
Yes.
cool. Abuse your knockbacks, keep them off your Zen. Okay, then I think we'll go ahead and call it there. Let me go ahead like